A world split in two. Warcraft has always lived in a strange duality. A world built on war, betrayal, famine, and the collapse of kingdoms, wrapped in visuals that feel almost playful. It's a franchise where genocide is spoken in the same breath as a peasant yelling, "Job's done," where tragedy unfolds in bright colors, where darkness wears a smile, or at least a very large pair of shoulder pads. And nowhere is this tonal split sharper than in Warcraft I, reimagined to the lens of Reforged, a grim medieval fantasy retold with a cartoon's palette. This isn't just a stylistic oddity. It's the heart of Warcraft storytelling, a saga that insists war can be both devastating and oddly playful. Tonight, I want to explore that clash, not to criticize it, but to understand it, because in that tension lies Warcraft's identity, a universe that insists war can be both devastating and strangely whimsical. The brutal minimalism of the first Warcraft game, released in 1994, didn't have the luxury of expressive animations or cinematic cutscenes. Its world was built from blocky sprites, stiff movements, and a handful of sound effects. But that simplicity created something powerful. The darkness of the story wasn't softened by visuals. It wasn't stylized. It wasn't exaggerated. It was implied. And implication is often more brutal than depiction. You weren't watching a polished fantasy epic. You were reading between the pixels, imagining the horror of an orc invasion, the desperation of a kingdom on the brink, the cold brutality of medieval war. The game didn't need to show you blood. Your mind filled in the gaps. Warcraft I was a grim story told through primitive tools, and that made it feel raw, grounded, and strangely honest. The era that shaped it. It's important to remember the era Warcraft was born into. The early 90s were filled with darker fantasy worlds shaped by Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer, and the gritty medieval realism of early PC RPGs. Fantasy wasn't yet dominated by the bright stylized look Blizzard would later pioneer. It was rough, it was muddy, it was closer to the brutality of Conan than the whimsy of WoW. Warcraft I reflected that era. It wasn't trying to be charming. It wasn't trying to be iconic. It was trying to be harsh, and that harshness defined its tone. A world rebuilt in saturated color. Fast forward to Reforged, and the world of Warcraft I is rebuilt with modern fidelity. Textures are sharper. Animations are smoother. Characters are more expressive. But the tone shifts. Reforged inherits Blizzard's now iconic art style, the one shaped by Warcraft III and perfected in World of Warcraft. A style defined by exaggerated proportions, vibrant colors, and a kind of visual balance that makes everything feel alive. It's beautiful, it's readable, it's iconic. But when you apply that aesthetic to Warcraft I's original narrative, a story about conquest, betrayal, and the fall of Stormwind, something strange happens. The world looks too clean for the horrors it contains, too colorful for the tragedies it describes, too charming for the brutality underneath. It's like watching a Shakespearean tragedy performed by characters from a Saturday morning cartoon. The Blizzard identity shift. To understand this clash, you have to understand Blizzard's evolution. Warcraft I and II were grounded in a darker, more traditional fantasy tone. But Warcraft III changed everything. It introduced brighter colors, exaggerated silhouettes, expressive animations, a more heroic mythic tone. This wasn't just a visual shift, it was a philosophical one. Blizzard realized that stylization made their worlds more readable, more iconic, and more marketable. It became their signature. So when Reforged revisits Warcraft I, it doesn't recreate the original tone. It retrofits it into Blizzard's modern identity. And that retrofit creates friction. When aesthetic and narrative refuse to sync, this is where the real tension emerges. A dark story demands weight. A cartoon aesthetic lifts that weight. Reforged doesn't erase the darkness. It reframes it. It creates a kind of tonal dissonance where the visuals and the narrative feel like they're speaking different emotional languages. You're told the world is burning, but the flames glow like they were painted for a theme park ride. You're told Stormwind is falling, but the soldiers look like action figures. You're told the orcs are a monstrous invading force, but they move with theatrical exaggeration, like performers in a fantasy stage play. The result is surreal. Not wrong, just surreal. It's tragedy printed in neon ink. The psychology of stylized violence. There's a psychological effect at play here. Stylized violence creates emotional distance. It makes brutality feel safer, more digestible, more entertaining. When a world looks like a cartoon, your brain expects cartoon rules. You expect characters to bounce back. You expect the stakes to be softened. So when Warcraft I's story, a story about invasion, enslavement, and the collapse of a kingdom, is told through that lens, the emotional signals get scrambled. Your eyes say fun. The story says fear. And your brain sits somewhere in the middle, unsure which one to believe. A fantasy world that refuses to choose expanded. When you place the original Warcraft and Reforged side by side, you don't get a contradiction. You get a conversation, a dialogue between two eras, two philosophies, two identities. The original Warcraft whispers, Reforged sings. The original is grounded in medieval brutality. Reforged is shaped by mythic spectacle. The original wants you to imagine the horror. Reforged wants you to admire the world. And when these two approaches collide, something unexpected happens. Warcraft becomes a world that refuses to choose a single emotional lane. It's not grimdark. It's not whimsical. It's both simultaneously. This duality is what gives Warcraft its strange charm. It's why the franchise can shift from tragedy to comedy without feeling broken. It's why players can mourn a fallen kingdom one moment and laugh at a goofy voice line the next. Warcraft is a world where tones don't blend, they coexist. How players experience this dissonance. What's fascinating is how players internalize this tonal split. Some players lean into the darkness. They see the orc invasion as a brutal, historical tragedy. They focus on the politics, the war, the collapse of Stormwind. Others lean into the cartoon charm. They see Warcraft as a playful fantasy world where the stakes are softened by style. And both interpretations are valid, because the game supports both. Reforged amplifies this duality. It gives players a world that looks safe, but tells a story that isn't. It creates emotional ambiguity, a space where players can choose how seriously they want to take the narrative. This flexibility is rare in fantasy. Most worlds pick a tone and stick to it. Warcraft lets you decide how dark the darkness really is. The Blizzard pattern, humor versus horror, this tonal clash isn't unique to Warcraft I Reforged. It's part of Blizzard's broader storytelling DNA. StarCraft mixes cosmic horror with units yelling jokes. Diablo pairs demonic apocalypse with loot goblins. World of Warcraft lets you fight eldritch gods, right after doing a quest about collecting chicken feathers. Blizzard has always balanced on this tightrope, a blend of sincerity and satire, tragedy and comedy, myth and parody. Reforged simply makes that balance more visible because it retrofits a dark, early-era story into a modern, stylized aesthetic. It's not a mistake. It's a pattern that defines Blizzard's identity. A world of bright darkness. Warcraft I Reforged doesn't overwrite the original. It reframes it. It highlights the tension between color and cruelty, humor and horror, spectacle and suffering. It shows us a world where the apocalypse can be bright, where war can be theatrical, where darkness can wear a smile. And maybe that's the secret. Maybe Warcraft endures because it embraces contradiction. Because it lets tragedy be beautiful. Because it lets fantasy be absurd. because it lets darkness wear bright colors. In the end, Warcraft isn't a world split in two. It's a world made whole by its contradictions. What Reforged accidentally reveals about Warcraft's DNA. When you look closely, Reforged becomes more than a remaster. It becomes a lens, a way to see what Warcraft has always been beneath the surface. A world where darkness is theatrical, where tragedy is mythic, where humor is a pressure valve, where stylization is not a distraction but a statement. Reforged doesn't dilute the original Warcraft. It exposes the contradictions that were always there, contradictions that make the franchise unique. Warcraft is not a pure fantasy epic. It's not a parody. It's not grimdark. It's not lighthearted. It's all of them, layered on top of each other, refusing to resolve. And that refusal is what gives the world its texture. It's not a parody. It's not grimdark. It's not lighthearted. It's all of them, layered on top of each other, refusing to resolve. And that refusal is what gives the world its texture. Thank you for watching A World Split in Two. If you enjoyed this exploration, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the worlds we love. And let me know in the comments, what do you think Warcraft's tonal split says about fantasy storytelling?